In the previous video, we saw how we can import from Revit. So how we can do interoperability using different building information modeling software and using the IFC format. Now, when we import a building information model or a BIM object or a BIM project, well, we always have more information than a standard 2D CAD or drawing, as we saw also previously. So we saw how we can import many different types of references. We started using the AutoCAD files, then we moved into images, and now we are moving into the building information modeling. So we're gonna see in this video how we can create our own references inside ARCHICAD, inside the software. So we're gonna create grid lines, we're gonna create the annotations here that will be used to create a structural grid. So we're going to use grid elements. We're also going to use stories. We're going to see how we can create more stories and how we can manage. So these are the main two references that we need to use if we are starting from zero without external references. So we're going to move on, and we're going to also introduce other tools, and we're going to go into more details about the snaps and the snap to the grid, the snap to the objects, and so on. So let's get started here. I'm just going to create a new file, a brand new project. So I'm not going to save this one here. And this is going to be our lesson 8. And we're going to use everything that is already inside ARCHICAD. We're not going to import anything. So I'm just going to save this lesson 08, and let's get started. In this lesson, we're gonna focus in the view menu of ARCHICAD. So how we can use some snaps and also other helpers from this menu to create our own design, our own architecture here in ARCHICAD. So we're gonna start with the construction grid. Construction grid will be the first reference that we're gonna use. Now, if you use a construction grid, you're probably working with something modular, so something that will snap to the grid. So to snap to the grid, we need to activate the snap or grid snap. Now, you have different types of snap. You can snap to references like grids or guides, or you can snap to elements, which are other BIM objects like walls or columns or things like that. So in this video, we're going to concentrate more on the grid. And if we click here in this little arrow, we have some options. So we can also turn off and on the grid anytime from here or from the view menu. And you can also snap to the grid. Well, the snap grid, this is kind of a little bit confusing. So the snap grid is kind of an invisible grid, while the construction grid is the visible grid that you see here. I'm going to show you how to set up both in just a minute. But just remember that this is kind of an invisible grid. It's not, it cannot be viewed, but it's working there in the background. And so this is for the snap to the grid, and this is to display the grid. So don't confuse also these two. So right now we have the grid visible, and we can snap to it. So if I create a wall, let's go for the standard here, the wall, the basic reinforced concrete wall. I'm gonna click, and you can see that right now I'm snapping to the grid. So I can create something modular. You can see that when I create the wall, I can also use arcs and other elements, just as I did with the lines or the polylines. There you go. Now make sure that you don't do anything like too strange, that it's gonna overlap or intersect strangely, and then we can go back to snapping with the line to the grid. Now if you want to go back, press backspace, and you can continue where you left off. Now when you finish, you can click on the X and leave this open, or you can close everything up. If you see the hammer there, it's gonna close everything up. And so this is gonna be the first wall. Now, what if I want to customize the grid? And by the way, I don't know which units I'm using. What's the spacing here? I don't know practically anything about this grid. So where do I need to go to manage that? Well, you need to go to View menu and go down here. So we're gonna skip the trace for the moment. We're gonna go directly here to Grids and Editing Plane options. And you click on the first one. You can see that some of the tools that you find here are also here in this menu, in the View menu, this sub menu. So what we need here is to go to Grids and Background. This is where we can set up and customize our grid, either the construction or the invisible, which is called a snap grid or nudge. Now, let's start with the most important one, which is the main grid. So let's say that I want 1000 instead of 2000. So this means that I'm using meters instead of a spacing that it's 2 meters. So be careful there, not 100, but 1000, because we are working in millimeters. And what you see here down here, this is for the dimensions. So don't bother to read that. This is going to be for the dimensions down there. So we are working actually in millimeters, not meters. I'm going to show you also how to set up the units. Now, in the steps, we can leave one or we can do more. So if I do like 10 steps, this is going to divide the spacing here into 10 steps. So it's going to become like 10 centimeters. We don't want to do that at the moment. Now let's say OK, and you can see now this is the updated grid. So you can go back and forth here and adjust this as you like. Now you have also the auxiliary grid, which is an extra grid. So you can add here an extra spacing, let's say 100, which means 10 centimeters. And you can set up the steps. So you can say 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. Now let's also fix something else here. I'm going to show you later the rotation of the grid and also the snap grid or nudge. Let's change a little bit the background, because this is also something you can do here. So if you want something darker instead of the white background, you can do it. And let's say that I want like strong yellow lines. So let's say OK, and now everything changed. So we customize everything, but this is not readable, but just to show you how you can customize it. So if I take the wall again, and you can see now I have 1 meter here for the first grid, and then 10 centimeters for the secondary grid. So if you need to do something more complex, you can use both of the grid. Now I'm just going to go back, otherwise, well, this is not going to be great for readability. So I'm going to go back here to grid the background. And let's go here and set up everything to white again. And the lines I'm gonna set up gray. And now let's get rid of the auxiliary grid. So I'm gonna set 0 here. And I'm gonna use the spacing of the snap grid or nudge. Now this works similarly to the other grid, but it's invisible. So I can say that, for example, I need to work here each 10 centimeters. I need each 10 centimeters. So I'm going to set up 100 millimeters, or 50 millimeters equals to 5 centimeters. But in my experience, I work better with 10 centimeters instead of 5. But you can do that. Now here you can turn this invisible grid off. You can make it snap everywhere. So it's going to be used like for intervals. Or you can make it snap only to the grid, to the main construction grid. So let's say that I want to snap everywhere. I'm going to close the panel, save, and just use a wall again. So now I'm using 10 centimeters. Now let me just select everything and delete and create a wall again. So if I click now, it will be really easy to create something to 10 meters, so 10,000 millimeters. But you can see that when I move, I'm snapping each 100 millimeters. So that's the invisible line working there. And I can also snap to the visible line. So this is, again, how you can set up your own and work with modules.